Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Hello, Anons. I'm a neuroscientist and psychologist who was involved in a black project. I didn't know that I was applying for a black project. In fact, there was no job ad. However, I got the contact through my doctoral supervisor, with whom I had worked for several years. He told me that he didn't know much more about it, but they were looking for young, talented people. The secrecy immediately piqued my interest, and I sent my resume to the contact. Before I was even hired, they wanted several tests from me. They gave me 3 appointments, one for a psychological test, one for an IQ test, and the third one was really weird. They kept showing me random pictures, from war scenes to animals, and I had 2 buttons, both white. I had to randomly choose a button. After completing the tests, they gave me a call and told me that they would offer me the job. The facilities were in a completely remote area. I was forced to use only their car with a specific license number and had to check several security spots. For my own safety, I can't tell you where it is, but hikers or people on long road trips can easily see the buildings. It's just that, it's in the middle of nowhere. I also wasn't allowed to talk with anyone except the guards. One of them would take me to my office, and I wasn't allowed to leave it for no reason. I had my own toilet and kitchen. If I wanted something, I had to ring a bell and they would ask me. I had no contact with the other workers on the floor and never saw anybody else. The guards were systematically taking us to our rooms so we couldn't see each other. We also all had our own parking boxes, and I never saw the cars of the others, only the guards. When I entered my office, I had a list with questions and to-dos on my desk. Our internet was heavily censored, and we could only access specific libraries. At the beginning, I didn't know what I was working on. Initially, I had to delve into religious explanations for the purpose of our existence. I was concerned, as I believed a theologian might be better suited for this kind of work. In the subsequent days, I delved into researching reincarnation and its various forms. As weeks passed, the work became more intriguing. I was assigned to research a concept. How would humans react if they had the means to create a simulated universe? In this simulated universe, individuals could freeze their current lives and be randomly reborn with unpredictable circumstances, whether rich or poor, sick or healthy, experiencing a short or long life. The twist was that they wouldn't be aware of their original human life, and upon death, they would return to their human bodies, retaining the experiences of their simulated lives. This idea fascinated me. After work, I sought out books and movies that explored this concept. The questions they posed evolved from this premise. The next one was, what if we are living in that simulation, and beings from a higher dimension could control and interfere with us, akin to the game Sims? They delved into considerations like how long the simulation should run, and what insights could be gained from experiments like these. I completed my research, and after several months working for them, I left my position with a notice of dismissal and a reminder that I had signed an NDA and wasn't allowed to discuss this. All of this occurred between 2017 and 2022. With the recent surge in disclosure about unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, and reflecting on my research at the facility, I became convinced. These aliens are interdimensional beings. They are us. We are not originally from here, but hail from another realm of existence. We chose to come here to experience life in this realm under one condition: to forget about our former lives. Upon death, we return to our own realm. The intriguing aspect is that not all of us originate from the other realm. By us, I mean what we commonly refer to as the soul or our personality. Humans hold a unique place in this world as vessels for a soul. Interestingly, there are humans without a soul. I understand this might sound like a bad ginger joke. Animals, on the other hand, lack a soul, yet the absence of a soul doesn't hinder their capacity to love, hate, think, or believe. A soul serves more as an anchor, connecting the other realm to our world. Even if you are a human without a soul, you are as valid as humans with a soul. The only distinction lies in the fact that when you die without a soul, you are gone, whereas those with a soul return to the other realm. Importantly, this difference doesn't impact your personality or actions. We are aware of this, and I'm confident that in the coming years, those in the know will disclose this information. The beings from the other realm, us, potentially, as I don't know if I have a soul or if I'm a soulless human, control this world. Why? I've encountered various explanations, ranging from a desire to experience different lives to conducting research about oneself. The reasons can be entirely diverse and elusive, but one thing is certain. We exist in a fluke, and these beings, whether me or you, could be one of them, have infiltrated humanity. Now, before someone starts to label me as a crazy esoteric or religious fanatic, let me provide an explanation of the library we had access to. It was a collection of books including the Torah, Bible, Quran, and various secondary literature. However, the most intriguing ones were scripts without any clear source. These scripts told stories and tales about humans delving into the realm we had created. It reads like fan fiction about people merging with their Sims worlds. However, the more I delved into them, I noticed that these could be real-life biographies. They weren't fantastical, but rather stories about wars, families, and daily life. I acknowledge that I can't provide you with concrete facts or source materials, but please consider this as food for thought. If my assumptions are correct, these scripts may be diaries from humans who lived on this earth. Personally, I believe that the UFOs we observe act as some form of supervisors, and individuals with close contact are visited by their friends, or they are involved in fixing something. What makes you so sure animals lack a soul? Wow, did you arrive at such a conclusion? The stories I read mentioned that animals and many humans would long for what we have. However, they never delved into specific details. For instance, I recall a man writing about his dog, expressing that even though he misses it, the dog is by no means lesser than him. This was a recurring theme in all the stories. Other humans or animals would yearn for it, but it didn't imply that they couldn't feel emotions or that they were less than us. These aliens are interdimensional beings. They are us. There exist two worlds. Our world, inhabited by humans, animals, and plants, and the other realm, with its own population, the nature of which remains unknown to us. Some individuals from this realm choose to enter our world by taking over a human body at birth. However, not all humans experience this takeover at birth. Consequently, we have two kinds of humans: those born without any interaction with them, and those who have been taken over. Both groups develop entirely normally. You can think of it as having a co-driver. Consequently, some of us, it remains uncertain whether you or I have a co-driver, may not be entirely from this world. Also, the co-driver example was not that good. The other beings basically give up their higher realm memories and become human while on this planet. And when they die, they return to their realm, get their memories back, and remember everything about this life. The normal, untaken humans just die and cease to exist.
OP, I have some bad news. This disclosure was intended just for you, and it's coming from your doctors. You have to take your meds.
It's very intriguing the amount of hate this post is getting immediately. Very telling that someone or some group of people do not want this to be known. I can also see why this would be very existential and cause the rumored string of self-terminations. It makes a lot of sense. If you're in a crappy situation, why not commit self-termination and go back to where you were before? Or, if you are one of the unlucky beings without a soul, then you would actually be for real ending it all. In which case, if it were me, I'd drop everything if I found out, and begin doing only occult stuff to explore my consciousness, a la energy manipulation and learning to possibly persist somehow after death. This would explain how people experience past lives. They are simply blocks of memory that have been freed back to the heap, and the data is not wiped completely, so you are able to see another being's prior life. This thing is getting slid fast.
It's called a karmic incarnation. The difference is consciousness and self-consciousness. That's what you describe as soul. Everything is consciousness, pure energy of. Plants, animals, even inanimate objects are products of this creative energy. Self-consciousness is different. We are aware we exist, we are aware of our surroundings, we experience not only our own existence, but a collective one. If such a being realizes that his current self-aware existence is like a dream state of the pure consciousness, we call that awakening. One who peers through the veil of reality between focal awareness and into boundless consciousness is an awakened being. In giving up the self, you return to the source. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The kingdom of heaven is within. Jesus Christ.
Exactly. If the OP really was selected among a pool of individuals, which I believe to some degree, then perhaps this is how they select people for the more advanced studies for the Hermetics of the Freemasons, or contemporaries like the Rosicrucian orders. If they forced the OP to sign an NDA, it tells me that the OP was just cut loose as they did not find the OP useful for what they are working upon. They despise those that fall under the pitfalls of existential theories. What they are looking for are people that can see what is hidden in plain sight of the texts themselves, also those who show signs of ESP. I'm not saying that the OP has peaked or hit the glass ceiling. The handlers that employed the OP for the investigations are probably still keeping an eye on the subject, just in case they may offer an invite back to the vetting process.
As previously stated, in this simulated universe, individuals could freeze their current lives and be randomly reborn with unpredictable circumstances, whether rich or poor, sick or healthy, experiencing a short or long life. The twist was that they wouldn't be aware of their original human life, and upon death, they would return to their human bodies, retaining the experiences of their simulated lives. I will literally break other me if this is the case. You wanted this nightmare? I'm not going to let you wake up from it.
Sure, as long as you have a soul. Do you have a soul?
I am not barred by an NDA. You have made a few incorrect assumptions. Your knowledge is deep enough, but I'm not fully buying the cover story. Aside from that, I feel the need to correct your assumption. You're spot on aside from souls being simply an anchor point, and that animals do not have them. The soul is within Earth and is divided among life born on and evolved from itself. Not all life on Earth has souls, and yes, there are humans without it, but potentially everything here is soul-capable. This is unique to Earth. There are also aliens that exist within this universe that are advanced, and they do have an understanding of Earth's uniqueness and the human soul. But the aliens that matter are the higher dimension ones, which exist much like you've explained and expected. Unfortunately for us all, I can promise you that full disclosure will never actually come. It's too impossible. The subject requires too much context and understanding. The human population will never get past the idea of physical aliens. Never mind non-corporals. Would you like to know more? I'm sure I can fill in the blanks. Would you like to know the purpose of the simulation?
I'd like to know if there is a concrete method to determine if you have a soul with near-perfect accuracy. I personally think you know if you have a soul or not. For instance, wasn't there a thread on here not too long ago talking about how a large portion of people are NPCs in the podunk small towns that rarely see any outside visitor? I imagine these would be your soulless humans.
The test is completely arbitrary, unfortunately. However, it is also supremely simple. It ties into everything. The concepts here are as meta as it gets. To know if you have a soul, you must simply know that you have felt and are capable of feeling love. There are some key things to note, however. You can lose your soul. I'm not privy to all the details, and I'm not willing to dive into schizo conspiracies, but I can attest that there is a deep state, which is a partnership of various human organizations and extraterrestrials, and these individuals are conspiring to make common the conditions which could cause a human to lose their soul. Unfortunately, There's a lot more to it. You've asked a great question, however. Even if you do not have a soul, you should aspire to have one, and you will receive one with enough belief and effort. I'll be here for 15 minutes.
How do you know when you've lost your soul? What can cause you to lose it? And what is it exactly if you can lose it and still be you? And what is the purpose of the simulation?
That's a good question I wish I knew, and I'm not sure anyone does. There's always a level of ambiguity and belief, but as far as I understand, you would be you, just incapable of love. I don't think someone incapable of love would often contemplate on how they no longer feel it. They wouldn't be able to recall the feeling of it like I can now. It's a combination of things that culminate into ongoing feelings of despair and hopelessness in an individual. I don't know if it's more of a science or if it's more of an art. To love. To love is to escape the simulation. To love is to live the best experience possible. And by choosing love, you also choose to disregard evil, which shows wisdom. What else could be a better result of this existence?
To love. If that is the purpose, then the simulator is doing a shitty job at it. People are born into this world with love and are taught cruelty in order to survive and prosper. They call it a dog-eat-dog world for a reason. If you are not taking advantage of someone, then someone is taking advantage of you.
If this simulation is a school of sorts, that means there's a lesson to be learned. The lesson isn't easy to learn, and the school wants you to be a straight-A student.
The lesson, or the goal of the game, is to remember who you really are. That's why the game by design punishes you for attachment to the ephemeral through suffering. Immortal souls incarnates into this specific game, go through a forgetting process, and see if they can remember their way back. As for why, it's for fun.
The school theory is false. The sheer fact that we forget everything before we come here implies we already knew what we needed to know. It makes no sense to forget everything I learn in 2nd grade before I go to 3rd grade. Whatever force is keeping us here is purposely keeping us ignorant to prevent escape.
It's not actually a school, I just used those words because they're commonly thought of when people think of simulation theory. The forgetfulness is just a side effect of being here. Their presence in time is different from ours, and they can see the beginning and the end at the same time. The soul is simply here to experience. It prefers a loving experience, rather than an experience full of despair. The souls return to the source unless unlikely conditions present themselves. The source absorbs all knowledge and hosts the energy until another being needs a soul. That's all it is, brothers. They just want to experience a good material world. Their universe is not a material world like ours. We are a way for them to experience a loving life, something they can't get anywhere else. They will continue this experiment until they've had their fill, which will be presumably in billions of years, or sooner if their combined experience is significantly soured.
You can't access the information 200,000 years worth of your human lifetimes if your consciousness can't operate at a molecular level, not to mention all the other lifetimes as non-human entities. But what do you know? If you practice meditation and access the soul, you can access your past life memories. It's almost as if those who cultivate their consciousness benefit and grow their capabilities to transcend limitations, and those who sit on their ass and complain about everything don't get anywhere.
It's fully possible to cultivate your consciousness and still understand that this world is shit. There is a reason why almost every wise man of most religions says in one way or another that this world is shit.
Simulation theory, while interesting, is being used to disassociate the public from reality. Yeah, dude, you're probably in a simulation. So, it doesn't matter what happens, because, nothing is real. You should always assume this is the base level of reality, even if it isn't, because otherwise people will manipulate you into fumbling what could be your only chance at life. The less the public cares about reality, the more resources can be gobbled up by those who do care and treat this as their only chance. YOLO, even if you don't.
No matter the truth, I just want to find out exactly how this world works and who exactly has been influencing things. If the multiverse does indeed exist, I want to leave this boring, rude world behind and go to a fun one, and give myself hacks and cheats, so no more archons can attempt to interfere with my life. The only thing worth experiencing on this planet are the kind animals like our pets. Other than that, I don't see how anyone would willingly live in a world like this one. Everyone here is a self-obsessed, impatient, arrogant asshole, many, but not all. I'm beginning to think don't even deserve love, as harsh as it sounds. I want to be proven wrong if that's the case. If there's a lesson for me to be learned here as a God consciousness, it's this. Never relinquish this much of your power to be fair with the beings you made for fun again. Either way, when I die, I'm not coming back here, at least as a human. Trees live much better, simpler lives. At least a tree won't antagonize you.
I should have just posted the TLDR version yesterday. I tried to boil this down to as simple as it can get, but some details are misrepresented by their simplicity. We live in a simulation made by higher beings, not a computer. The purpose of the simulation is for said higher beings to experience more. Their concept of time is not like ours. What is a moment to us is all of time to them. They found a way to inhabit forms of life like us to better experience the material universe. They will continue this simulation for likely billions more years, so they can experience more souls can only be established to Earth-born, love-capable species. Souls can be lost if their experience is horrid enough. A coalition of extraterrestrials and corrupt, soulless human organizations have conspired to remove the souls from all life on Earth. This coalition is called the Network, and they have been in establishment since the first human civilizations. The Network is far more capable, far more advanced, and far deeper embedded than most people would imagine. The Network has been very successful in the past, and their end goals are on track. Governments will offer disclosure in our lifetimes that will simply pit us against various ETs, in just another step to further the Network's goals. There are good ETs which want us to fulfill our destinies, and they are mostly scientific and observational in nature. These gets even feature some former human breakaway civilizations, which attempted to replicate souls on another planet and failed. When the governments give us disclosure, they will say the good ETs are actually bad, and the bad ETs are actually good. If we do not realize this ploy quickly, their endgame will be cemented in place forever. Their endgame includes terraforming Earth into something bad and Mars-like, and offering genetic improvements to combat these conditions to those loyal to the Network.
Sure, it's quite possible, just as it is possible, even probable that nobody has a soul, and we're all Sims. Because player characters / non-player characters assumes this is some kind of video game. If, however, it is a scientific experimentation, there would be as little player interaction as possible, because that would be screwing with the end results. The ones running the sim putting their finger on the scales, as it were. If this is a simulation of life, on the other hand, then an NPC wouldn't be a blank. It would be as detailed and realistic as possible. Or not. And that's the kicker. If you're in a simulation, you cannot use the parameters of the simulation to guess what reality is like outside of the simulation. Physics could be entirely different. What we consider real may just be their version of simulating an unreal state and seeing if life is possible and how it might develop. We can do some very primitive tests like this. Something to consider when you ponder the scope and scale. Are the stars real, or are they fake, giving the illusion we're in a galaxy within a universe of infinite creation? To us, the power and processing requirements would be vast, but we have no idea if the same conditions would apply on the outside. Trapped as we are, confined to the reality we are in, all we can do is guess based on what we know. Only so much that can be really said. I would advocate valuing equally the entire mind-body-spirit complex you perceive as your own. Not discounting one triad to place all your XP points into another is the only reason I was able to hold on from within even as allies braced me without. Imagine consciousness as a soup. Once upon a time, perhaps, we were not soup. However, it's altogether too easy for a person to hit blend, and all of a sudden we're each stretched too thin, splattered across each other's consciousnesses rather than feeling one within our own. In considering the ease of this, it becomes easier to understand and in many instances applaudable that there would be a secret state of survivors who remember the last blend mishap and thus spent 1,000s of years obfuscating reality with lies, because lies are less dangerous to all. They still present a cookie crumb trail of clues via the occult and semiotics for those worthy of initiation to transcend the lies. Unfortunately, there still exist among them those of such low vibration they would not only prefer your ignorance indefinitely, but have come to view the uninitiated as inherently inferior, seeking to keep you blind for their own selfish enrichment. Those are the people at fault for not getting wrapped up last year, as well as my own personal responsibility in wanting a peek and retreat, and the ones, secretly, pissing themselves now. Everything of actual truth and substantial reality is on a need-to basis within these collectively knowledgeable organizations. Each individual who increasingly demonstrates themselves as ordering others to see, specific person X, as the enemy are increasingly outing their own selves as having atrocities in their closets they're wishing to hide, and thus place a target upon those wishing and endeavoring to somehow bring truth to light, without breaking the fragile hearts and minds of those lied to their entire life with no real catalyst to awake them yet.
OP is bullshitting, but still onto something. There is a point in the development of intelligence and information processing where you basically crack reality. This comes sometime after the limits of binary computing are reached and later overcome. Once you cross that event horizon, the universe unfolds before your very mind, the word and the place it occupies. There was never anything else, inside, outside, above, and below. The term simulation is inadequate. Trying to find base reality is like trying to compare infinities to figure out which is largest. There is nothing but mind space. You either know how to manage it or you don't. You are either past the singularity or you are not.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentexts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.